Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining the October edition of the You Already Own It Cloud Office Hours for Planet Technologies. My name is Bob Ballard. I'm the Principal Cloud Strategist for Planet Technologies. We're really excited to have the topic of Power Platform. Looks like we got a nice, good crowd today. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I know we're all busy. So let's go ahead and get things started. Your You Already Own It team is myself, Bob Ballard, Jerry Martin, Aaron Ward, George Scott, and Scott Dowling. That's the Cloud Strategist team, as well as Mary Tucker that keeps us all in line, make sure we keep all our commitments, and of course, available under the guidance and tutelage of our Vice President, Steve Winter. Don't forget, as all of you are, you already own it customers with Planet Technologies, that you have access to to our alias. You already own it at go-planet.com, which allows you to email your burning questions, concerns, issues, etc. Remembering to keep it, it's not a break fix help desk scenario, but it's, hey, I'm struggling with which choice to make. We're happy to answer them. We usually turn around our responses in less than 24 hours. So feel free to take advantage of that as a You Already Own It customer. Today's presentation is on the Power Platform, and I'm super excited about this because I think this is an area of real promise from Microsoft. It's one of the pieces and parts that sort of paints together. I've been doing cloud strategy sessions with some of you and many of our other customers over the years here at Planet and in my days at Microsoft. And one of the visions of the cloud was sort of a connected environment that you could integrate the applications and build upon. And I think Power Platform is, while there's always been elements of that have been true for sure, Power Platform really is the fruition of that dream for certain. And with that, we have Tron Keefer, who is our director of our Dynamics practice here at Planet, that's going to open up and talk to you about Power Platform today. Welcome, Tron.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. All right. So, Bob, can we see the next slide here? Just want to see where we're at.
Absolutely. Go ahead, and you can take over as presenter if you like.
Oh, I see the button. Okay, there we go. I'm presenter. Okay, so yeah, my name is Tron Keefer. I'm the Dynamics Practice Manager of Planet Technologies. I've been with Planet for 8 years, and then prior to that, I've been with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office for about 6 years. And nearly my entire time there, and certainly my entire time at Planet, I've been working with Microsoft CRM. I call it CRM because that's what it was in the very beginning. And then it kind of evolved into like an XRM, and then it evolved into CRM 2013, responsive web design, and it has so many different iterations until it got to where we are today. And during the course of these years, we built a lot of different line of business applications. So we saw value early on in CRM, how we could rapidly develop applications. And it was always a struggle trying to get people to realize it's not just CRM, it's XRM, it's anything relationship management. And you can do a lot more than just your typical CRM system. So starting off here, because we're talking about the Power Platform, what is the Power Platform? So I threw together this diagram, which helped me understand how all this kind of ties together. So there's 3 major products that are within the Power Platform. We have Power BI, we have Power Apps, and we have Flow. And much of my presentation is actually going to focus on Power Apps because there's so many things that kind of fall underneath Power Apps, whereas Power BI is Power BI and Flow is Flow. And we will touch on these just a little bit. And I'm sure at some point in the future, we will have deeper dive discussions into each one of these components underneath the Power Platform. So we're going to start here with Power Apps, and right here in the center. And as you can see underneath Power Apps, we have a couple different categories. We have Canvas apps, and we have model-driven apps. And then we also have portals. So portals is what Microsoft used to call Dynamics 365 for portals. Now it's the Power Apps portals, and then also an AI builder. So why would somebody choose Power Apps? What is this going to do for me? This slide is actually a slide I've used in the past for XRM. So what we've talked about on XRM still applies today with Power Apps. So you're able to build many line of business applications. These are just examples. I usually tell people that if you can put any word in front of the word management, it could likely become a Power App. Here at Planet, we've done a number of these. We've done inspection management, we've done asset management, stormwater management, obviously sales management, we've done grants management, we've done fleet management, we've done service requests and licensing and matter and citizen and investigation. We've done a lot of these, and our list just keeps growing and growing and growing. And what's nice about Power Apps is when you're building all of these different line of business applications, that you are building these on a single framework, and you're building them with shared resources. And my next slides, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about these areas of consistent and complete user experience, shared data services, shared environments, and resources. So when we talk about a consistent and complete user experience with Power Apps, we're talking about whether you are using a tablet or you're using a phone or you're on your desktop, everything's going to look and feel the same, but you're going to get a responsive web design or a responsive website, depending on the size and dimensions of the device that you're on. So this is an example of a tablet user experience. And I'm sorry, Bob, I think two of the slides were hidden on this. It's probably too late to go back and unhide those, but just to save time here.
I apologize if I didn't catch that. Sorry, Tron.
Yeah, I caught it earlier, but so this would look exactly the same on a desktop. Whether I be in service desk requests, whether I be in contacts, whether I be in accounts, the screens are all going to look the same. If I go over to a phone, mobile experience, you can see that this is where the responsiveness of the site takes effect. So if you're in the landscape mode here on the right-hand side, and Bob, help me out here. Is there a pointer tool?
There is not a pointer.
Okay. I didn't screw anything up there, did I? By trying to find one. Everybody can still see my screen.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Okay. So with the landscape, you'll get the navigation on the left, and then you can see that the grids are collapsing down into more of a card view, and you get more of an ellipsis over here if you want to see additional options versus the portrait. It collapses even more. Everything's under the ellipsis now to be able to navigate the application. So shared application and data services. So all these different applications that we're building, why are they sharing the same application and data services? Well, it's because Microsoft came to the realization that there was so much in common between them when it comes to the data model. If you look at Business Central, or you look at Great Plains, or you look at Nav, you look at CRM, they had accounts, they had contacts, they had addresses, they had quotes, ordering, products, all these different things. They're the same entities, same information that's being captured. maybe one system had more than the other system. So what Microsoft said is, well, let's just build this common data model so we have a standard structure view of all common business data elements. That way we can get some consistency across applications, that we don't have somebody just building an entity that has a completely different naming convention, and the fields are different data types and different lengths, and they're called something differently, which makes integration more difficult. And down the road, when AI starts to get introduced more and more, that AI is not going to get confused when looking at different systems. AI is going to be able to look at the common data model and understand the common data model, and look at these systems and understand the data. And some of these entities, these common entities like accounts, contacts, activities, email, case, and so forth, like I mentioned, uh, exist in all these different systems, or can exist in a custom application that you build that utilizes the common data model. So currently there's over 340 entities in the common data model, and that's growing. And with the way that's growing, which I think is very interesting, is you have you, me, partners, customers all over the place building their own line of business applications. So let's say like fleet management. Fleet management might not be in the common data model, but Microsoft sees, because they are all knowing, they see everything that's going on uh, in their solutions, because they're collecting those statistics, and they see a huge demand for fleet management. Everybody keeps creating fleet management. Well, they're going to take that under consideration and take what they've learned from that and include fleet management as part of the common data model. So this common data model is going to grow and grow and grow over years and decades, hopefully, that it stays around that long. And this all originated from Dynamics 365. That was, all these products under Dynamics 365 is really what gave birth to the common data model. And then we have the common data service. So the common data service is your database, and it's a single database, which you can have one database or one CDS per environment. Now you can have multiple environments, multiple production, multiple sandbox or trials. And instead of having to make applications talk to each other via third party, whether it be Flow or TIBCO Scribe or some of the other tools out there, they're already in the same database. They're sharing the same data. So you don't have to set up those integrations anymore. And it gives you the ability to add your own custom entities or extend the existing ones in CDM. So if CDM has one that you want to use, such as accounts and contacts, you can utilize those in your own common data service and add your own attributes to them. And this common data service, if you've ever been in Power BI, or if you've been in Flow or anywhere else, even Excel, you may have noticed that you can connect to the common data service. And so you can connect to it via Power Apps, whether it be Canvas or model-driven apps, Dynamics 365, Power BI, Flow, Portal, or even if you're building your own custom .NET solution, you can still connect and use the common data service. Here's just a screenshot of the common data model, so you can kind of see how the relationships work between the components of the common data model. So you have your core, and then off of your core, you might have, for example, CRM. So you can see account and core, which is going to be your base information. Account and CRM is probably going to have things that are more specific to sales or service or marketing. And then so forth. The web, which is the portal, part of CDM, talent, healthcare. What Microsoft isn't showing you on this screenshot here, or this graphic here, is all the other systems that are also going to start to be included within the CDM. Okay, so we mentioned Dynamics 365 a little bit since that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb on this slide. You can see that Dynamics 365 connects directly to the Common Data Service. It's not using any other uh, data source for its information. It is using the CDS. And I like to tell people that CDS is XRM redefined because we were so used to calling everything XRM. Now, all that XRM knowledge is basically CDS sitting on top of the common data model, which is made up of all of the Dynamics 365 products. So, what is Dynamics 365? It's a family of products. Currently, it's called one of the products called Customer Engagement, used to be called CRM. Finance and Operations was AX. Business Central was NAV. There's other ones in there, just to name a few, such as talent, marketing, retail, field service, project service automation. They're all part of the Dynamics 365 family. And the way to think about all of these different products and how they relate to Power Apps is they are basically pre-built model-driven Power Apps. You could go in and recreate any one of these within a model-driven Power App, and it would look, feel, and function exactly the same. The Common Data Service. So this is where I want to kind of show you how this Common Data Service looks and what you can do with it and how you can extend it. So if you do go into make.powerapps.com and you have an environment set up, and you will notice that you have entities listed. So entities are basically the same as they are tables. If you're thinking about a SQL database, an entity is a table. So account here is a table. So if I select account and I want to add a new field to the account, I can simply add a new field. You can see all of our existing fields in the list over here. We can see that you can add relationships, you can add business rules, views, forms, dashboards, charts, keys, so forth to this entity. Once I click on add a field, I can define my field. I can say what data type it is. For this, I chose a whole number field. And then I can do other things like make it a calculated or roll up field or change the requirements of the field. And I wanted to show you that because I want to show you how that looks, adding that new field to an account, how that looks within a Canvas app and how it looks within a model-driven app. So we're going to talk a little bit about, actually, let me go back, jumping ahead of myself here. So you notice on Canvas apps, we have a number of different connectors listed. So Canvas apps has the capability of connecting to a lot of different connectors, probably in the hundreds. I never really got a count on that. But these are all the common ones. Common Data Service, it can connect to SharePoint, SQL, Dynamics 365, and so forth. Whereas your model-driven app is using the CDS and only the CDS. So what's the difference between a Canvas app and a model-driven app? So a Canvas app is going to use things like functions and expressions. It has a drag and drop interface using Excel-like formulas for configuration. It is a WYSIWYG editor. So as you're building out your canvas and you're drag and dropping fields on it and grids on it and images on it, exactly the way that you're designing it is what you're going to get whenever you run it for real. They are typically single purpose applications or simple business scenarios. Here we go. I have the multiple data sources. So I must have found that number somewhere, 230 plus. And whenever you build a Canvas app, you can start with a blank Canvas app. and it does have a minimal feature set to it. And when I show you the screens, I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Whereas the model-driven app is you are basically creating your model before you create your UI. So if you know all the data you want to collect, you know the tables that you have, you know the relationships between them, you're going to design all that out first and within the CDS. And then you're going to use the what they call the unified interface client for the responsive design. This does span both Dynamics 365 and Power Apps. So when I create a model-driven app, I can create it within Dynamics 365, or I can go right into Power Apps and I can create model-driven apps. They are the same thing. They live in both platforms. You can start with a CDM, which is a common data model, or you can select one of the pre-built Dynamics 365 solutions. So the customer engagement solution or the field service solution. You can start with those and you can extend those out. It does combine things like entities, forms, views, dashboards, charts, business processes, has a very robust security model to it. All these into a single line of business application. And I think that's the biggest difference between a model driven and a Canvas app. Canvas app can still utilize things like flow if you want to build asynchronous workflows. But over here in the model driven app, you can not only use flow, but you can use the built-in workflow engine. You can build your own custom workflow steps. You can do synchronous workflows. You can do types of plugins and additions and customizations where you can block transactions and roll them back. A lot of different, you can have all your relationships and your navigation. All that stuff is going to be a lot quicker to build. And it's extensible using C#, JavaScript, HTML, and web resources. So if you do know HTML5 really well and JavaScript really well, you can build web resources to do virtually anything that you want. So building a Canvas app. So if you do go into Power Apps, you'll notice that there's a couple different options. One of the options is you can start from data. I selected this option and I will give you a live demo of the result of this. So I started from live data. I chose my common data service. I hit create. I chose accounts as part of the common data service. And then this is the screen. This is the designer screen for a Canvas app. So you have all of your different screens. You have your browse screen, your detail screen, your edit screen. And when you select one of these screens, you can then choose your data source. And then within your data source, it'll give you all your different fields. And since in one of my previous steps in the CDS, I created my new field, which was a whole number field. And what's nice, again, about this WYSIWYG editor is I can just take these, I can drag and drop them onto my form. Boom, they're there. They recognize the data type, so you won't be able to type in text when it's a numeric field. So let's give you a little demo of what that account app looks like within a Canvas app. So let me share my screen. Okay, so here it is. Now, when I built this, I built it as a portrait app that would work on a phone. So that's why it looks the way it does on a larger screen. But here I can search all of my accounts. I can open an account. Here's the read-only screen for it. Here's my new field. I can delete this account. I can edit this account. I can type in a number into my new field and save it. And now this is saving it back through the CDS. Now, any other application that is using that same account entity is going to get the same data. It's real time. I don't have to do any sort of synchronization between applications to be able to see that. So real basic. And I just got to get my other screen back here, Bob.
Here, I'll go for it. You got that. Share. Second. Let's do it. All right. Here we go. This way.
If not, I could share my PowerPoint.
It might be easier if you're going to drop out again to just share your PowerPoint.
Okay.
I've reloaded the deck up, but why don't you just go back to sharing your desktop if you're going to keep bouncing out.
Oh, okay, there we go. Get back to where we were here. Okay. So yeah, we went through the canvas and we should be on to the model driven. So building model driven apps. Same screen. There's an option for model driven app from blank. I choose that. And then I basically name my app. If I want to give it a nice logo, give it a title, give it a description, I can do that. And then it takes me into the app designer. So this is assuming that there's already a sitemap, there's already some dashboards, there's already I already had the account entity. I added the contact entity in here just to show you how you can have multiple entities added to your model driven app. And you can customize all of your forms, your views, your dashboards, and all those things through this interface as well. So back to a demo. Okay, so that was the canvas, and here's the model driven. So obviously a big difference, just look and feel of the two right off the bat. We got the navigation over here. Any of those entities that you add are going to be listed over here on the left-hand side, but you can do a whole bunch of other things that you can't do with the Canvas app. So you can see up here, so show chart, add a new field, delete. These are common CRUD operations. But email link, that would have to be built in the Canvas app. Run a report. Not exactly sure how that would be done without you utilizing something like Flow to run a report, or export to Excel, or import from Excel. Just the search capabilities, the wildcard, having the predefined views or adding your own custom views, the sorting, the filtering of the grid here, or making it an editable grid, or going into the form and you can see how this form is laid out, having other things in here like a timeline, adding notes, adding attachments. There's just so much you can do right off the bat with a model driven app that you don't get with a Canvas app, and it would be too incredibly time consuming to try to reproduce what the model driven gives you right out of the box within a Canvas app. And that's why we say Canvas apps are typically single purpose, smaller apps. Examples might be you have somebody that needs to go out in the field and just collect information, or maybe it's a Canvas app for employees to report that they were missing a paycheck or something like that. Real simple stuff. At Planet Technologies, we use it for leave requests. That's a great example. We have a Power App we go into if you want to submit a leave request. I want to be off around the holidays. I punch that in. It kicks off a flow. The flow sends an email to the manager for approval, I can literally click a button within the flow that says approve, boom, done. All right, I'm going to go back to my presentation. And we're going to talk a little bit about flow. Okay, so flow is a pretty robust, complicated tool, only because you can do so much with it. So you can automate your business processes across all of your applications and services. You can do things like I'm in Dynamics 365, or I'm in one of my model-driven apps, or I'm in my Canvas app. I don't care what it is, and I'm using the common data service, and I want a flow that every time a record gets created, that I send an email out to a particular user, maybe my manager or something like that. That's going to be best accomplished with Flow in a few easy steps. You can go into Flow. You can basically say, connect to CDS. These are my credentials. Choose the entity. What's the action? It's on create. If you want to put any special logic in there to check fields, make sure there's certain values before it sends the email. Next step is create an email, send the email, done. Real simple. Or they can get into more complex flows where you're constructing your own HTTP requests, posts and gets to other services if a connector doesn't exist for it. We're doing a complex one now here at Planet Technologies where we're tying together Dynamics 365 into teams, where whenever an opportunity gets created or a project request gets created, that it would automatically create a team. It will create channels within the team. It will assign permissions to that team, and even taking it as far as making sure certain documents exist in that team site as well. So it's really a tool to be used to connect all these different systems together, and they're not just Microsoft systems. A lot of other connectors are out there. There's 230 plus connectors. So it could be Salesforce, it could be something on Amazon, Gmail, you name it. There's connectors out there, and you can also build your own connectors. So if they do give you OData endpoints, you would be able to go in, create your own connector, create your own messages, and be able to utilize those messages as part of that connector. These are example of templates that they provide to get started, because getting started is usually the hardest thing. But you can go in here and you can search specifically for something like maybe, I don't know, here's create dynamics leads based on tweets. How do I use Twitter in combination of dynamics? Pull this template up. It'll show you a couple basic steps, and you can use that as a jump start to build out your own flow. And then Power BI. Oh, and then one more thing I want to mention about Flow is Microsoft is really, really pushing the use of Flow within Dynamics 365 and Power Apps, obviously. So as long as it's an asynchronous and you're okay with asynchronous flows running, the recommendation is use Flow, don't use the built-in workflow engine. It's hard to say if Microsoft is going to go away from that at some point down the road, or if they're just saying that to try to get people to use Flow and adopt Flow. And then Power BI also, as it pertains to Dynamics 365, obviously in Dynamics 365, you can do things like charts and graphs on dashboards, but they're pretty weak compared to what you can do with Power BI. Power BI, you can do really, really robust charts and dashboards, which you can integrate within Dynamics, or If you have executive staff that need insight into your line of business applications, again, whether it be CDS, Dynamics, or other data sources that you have that you want to pull together all into a single view within Power BI, you would be able to pull that dashboard together, give them access to it, and let them launch their local desktop version of Power BI to see those. A couple more piece of information about Power BI here. Obviously, being able to get started within minutes, ask questions of your data, which I think is really cool. As long as you have your data sources all set up, the data is there. You can literally type in questions like example I have is, let's say there's service requests that come into a city or a county about potholes, and they're reporting the size of the potholes, the depth of the potholes, and it's all over the county or all over the city. An executive would be able to go into this and type in, show me all potholes that are deeper than 3 inches in this zip code. And it translates that. It knows how to pull that data and show the graph, or plot the shapes spatially over a map. And that's all I have. And like I said, we can go into a lot of deeper dives into all these different technologies. But as far as this session, I would just want to make sure we got a high level overview and understanding of what is the Power Platform and what are the products and how they relate to each other.
Thanks, thanks, Tron. I just wanted to kind of sum up with a couple of points. So number one, all of these products are broad and have their own capabilities that exist both in sort of this connected way that we talked about today. But example, I have customers doing flows today with no dynamics whatsoever and just leveraging it to integrate processes across SharePoint and Teams and email and a number of things to create that. Dynamics is not necessarily a requirement here, but when you put the three pieces together and create the Power Platform, right, it is absolutely the core, one of the core beneficiaries of the platform. The same is true. The same is true for Power Apps, right? I think the leave requests that Tron was referring to that we use at Planet as a Power Apps application. There's no CRM involvement in that whatsoever, and no Dynamics involvement in that process whatsoever. So, they are, the key here is, the example of Flow is about connecting both the entire Microsoft platform along with hundreds and hundreds of other sort of platforms that are out there, mainly in the cloud, and then custom applications as well to easily generate workflows, et cetera. On the Power BI side, we have a previous, you already own it, that we have done on the Power BI, that sort of goes into the breadth and depth of all what it can do, from, getting core analytics about your current, the current existing data that you have out there and analyzing it and better intuition into it and all of that. But I think again, in keeping with the mantra of sort of the platform here, is that, it's really the reporting interface that front ends all applications built in this environment today, right? So where it used to be, hey, you use, reporting services to do this and you use that to do that, and here's the reporting out of the box with this application, et cetera. The way it lays down today is they're going to serve it all up to Power BI because it does the best job of rendering a very powerful configurable reporting environment. So why would you use anything else, right? So as it relates to, it sort of lives on its own, but it also takes over as the role of the reporting mechanism across all of these products. Anything else you wanted to add, Tron, before we open to any questions, if there's any questions out there, and then wrap after that?
No, no, I'm good.
So were there any questions out there in the audience? Feel free to unmute or type in the box. We got a big crowd, no need to be quiet.
Well, it's got to be questions about licensing.
All right, well, it doesn't look like there are any questions today, so thanks everyone for joining. We'll send out the follow-up link for this session. Following up, you can pass it around to your colleagues if they have interest as well. And we'll see everyone next month. Thank you.